Hi, welcome to the first installment of the Negative Therapist YouTube channel. I'd like to talk about the difference between negative therapy and positive therapy. One thing that I've particularly noticed, the biggest thing I've noticed really, is that there seems to be a huge lack of understanding between the difference between positive psychology and negative psychology, or positive therapy and negative therapy. This is odd because it's impossible to be any sort of therapist unless you can understand both positive and negative therapy. If you want to be a positive therapist, that's fine, but it doesn't even make any sense to say that you're a positive therapist unless you understand the other side of the coin. Possibly the best way to explain what negative therapy is to explain what positive therapy is. Positive therapy is where, as a therapist, you have an idea about what you're doing. You know what you're doing, more or less, and you know how to do it, which is to say, you know how to go about it. You've got skills, things you can do that you know how to do. And that's all very straightforward. We all know that. We do most things based on skills and knowledge. They're the two ingredients, positive knowledge and the methodology that proceeds from positive knowledge. We don't have any great problem in understanding that. In negative therapy, we don't know what we're doing and we don't know how we're going to do it. And that's about all we can say about it, really. If you know something, if you have a model or a theory, you can talk at length about it. What you don't know, you can't really expound upon. So that's an easy way to talk about it, but it doesn't really tell us a hell of a lot, because when we explain it like that, negative therapy seems to be nothing. It doesn't seem to be anything whatsoever other than pure ignorance. And we don't really see pure ignorance as being a particularly helpful thing, generally speaking. But this isn't ignorance in the usual sense of the word, where we don't know, but we don't know that we don't know. This is conscious ignorance, where we are very aware that we don't know, and we realise that this is a proper way for things to be. I found for myself a good way of thinking about it or talking about it is to think about the way life works in terms of two distinctly different types of movement. So the first type of movement is willed movement, which is movement we're in control of, in charge of. We want to go from A to B. We know where A is, we also know where B is, and hopefully we know, or we can learn how to get from A to B. There's a method to it, there's a knack, a trick. So our dominant mode of experience is to experience ourselves as proceeding purposefully in life, i.e. directing things, directed action, directed movement. So that's the first type of movement. Generally, it's the only type of movement we know or acknowledge or want to have anything to do with. And that's kind of fine as far as it goes, although it doesn't go very far, if anywhere. But the other type of movement is the movement which happens by itself, without our direction, without us knowing anything about it, without us having any input. It just happens. So this is the movement, you could say, of life itself, maybe, or reality itself. Reality is a movement, according to David Bohm. It's not a movement from point A to point B. It's a movement from somewhere unknown to somewhere else that's unknown. So it's kind of an unknown movement. And it's happening all the time, and we don't make it happen, but it is happening. And it's kind of reassuring that we're not making it happen, because if we were making it happen, we'd have to doubt it. We'd have to be suspicious of it. What our motivations are for making that movement, and what type of limited understanding that movement will be coming out of, and whether it's even movement at all, because as Krishnamurti says, the movement between one known and another known is not a movement. You're not going anywhere at all. You're just stuck in your head. So there's this movement going on the whole time, and it's movement from an unknown origin to an unknown destination, and it's happening not due to our volition, and yet in a way we are it, because everything is it, and as much as we're part of reality, we're all moving in this way, but not intentionally. We certainly don't mean to do it. So we could say, therapeutically, mental health consists of being part of this movement consciously, because although we are part of it anyway, no matter what we do, consciously we're not, because we don't know about it, and even if we did know about it, or someone told us about it, we wouldn't really approve of it or trust it or like the sound of it at all. We like control, we like being in control. This type of movement is the pure quintessential epitome of not being in control, which obviously we don't tend to be too happy about. It goes against the grain, really. We understand mental health as that state where we are in control. The only thing is, being in control equates to not being in reality, so there's obviously something not entirely mentally healthy about that. We're not in reality, we're in a mind-created delusion. So really, we can't go very far in trying to equate existing or living in a mind-created delusion with mental health. Although we do equate the two the whole time. Health professionals, mental health professionals, psychologists, therapists, they equate those two things the whole time without realizing it. And the big difficulty about this way of looking at mental health is, on a very fundamental level, we don't trust this movement. We don't allow ourselves to know about it. That's how much we don't trust it. We're in total denial of it, really. So to somehow be consciously aware of it, we have to overcome this huge mental resistance, this hurdle. And so, even to understand or allow for the possibility that there is this type of movement already is a great step in the direction of being mentally healthy, really. As soon as you try and do anything about it, though, to avail of this movement or jump on board, like you might jump on board a bus or train, we're in trouble. As the ancient Taoists said, the more we try to accord with the Tao, the more we deviate. So our very effort to attempt to be part of that movement excludes us from it and abstracts us from it and alienates us from it. Even the tiniest little bit of an intention or effort in any way at all to accord with this movement separates us from it. And so all we know is trying and controlling and thinking about things in a wishful way. That's all we know. So all we know is how to deviate from the Tao. According with the Tao is very, very hard for us, for the simple reason that we don't understand anything that doesn't involve our own intention, our own purposeful will. And yet the fact remains that this movement is happening all the time. And not only is it happening all the time, it's the only thing that's happening. Nothing else is ever happening, ever was, ever will happen. Yet it's so damn hard to accord with it. consciously go along with it. So whereas positive therapy, just to resume what I've been saying, positive therapy is to get from known point A to known point B, and we label known point B as being mentally healthy, which is absurd, because it's just as unhealthy as any other construct of the mind that we take to be reality. Negative therapy is to partake in that movement through no volition or intention of our own, but to nevertheless consciously partake in it, be aware that we're partaking in it, and somehow trust that it's okay, even though it's not us that's making it happen and we don't know where it's going. So this very deep type of trust is what's needed more than being smart or being good at manipulating. But even saying this doesn't help us, because how the hell do you go around learning to trust the universe in a very profound way? Well, that's it for the first instalment of negative therapy. So I hope to carry on from this in the second instalment. Thanks for joining me.